This pair of error messages seems to fill many beginners with horror, but its meaning should become clear if you read the whole message. What seems to confuse many people is this expression here, failed to open stream. A stream is simply an external source that PHP is capable of reading and in some cases writing to. Here it simply means a file. In fact, it continues by saying, no such file or directory. The problem is that the next part of the message is in bold type, and this diverts attention from the first part of the message, which tells you which file it was looking for. But if you continue reading, the fatal error message says failed opening required, and then it gives you the location of the file it was trying to open. So this is simply telling you that a server-side include is missing, and the bold text tells you where the include command is. So we need to look in parent.php on line 3. So let's look at the code. And this is parent.php, which you can find in the chapter 8, 08_05 folder of the exercise files. And here is line 3. And we're trying to include the copyright PHP. If we open the includes folder here, there is copyright PHP, but write has been spelt the wrong way, if you take what I mean. So we need to change the spelling here from one type of write to a different type of write. And if we then save that and reload the page in the browser, the first part of the page is displayed, but then we get two more of these messages, failed to open stream. This time the warning is about include. So this is the difference between require and include. When you use require to load a server-side include, the script immediately halts if the file can't be found or read, but the script keeps running when you use include instead of require. Again, it tells us where the problem is. We need to look in parent.php on line 14. So let's go back to the code, and there is line 14. It's trying to include para.html, which is in the includes folder, but it's not in the includes folder. It's actually here in the main 08_05 folder. So what we need to do is to move para.html into the includes folder. Be happy with changing that, and then just save and go back to the browser, and now everything is working. Failed to open stream means a resource that you're trying to load can't be found, or it can't be read. In most cases you get this error because you've spelled the name of the file incorrectly, or because it's not in the right location. If the problem is on your remote server, use your control panel to check that the include file has been uploaded to the right location. You might also get this error if the file can't be read. Check the file's permissions. If they're okay, the file might be corrupted, so try uploading it again. The error known as headers already sent has been responsible for many a head being banged on the keyboard in frustration. I know, I've still got the scars from my early days of working with PHP. Let me show you what the problem is. It's not as common these days because of a change to the default configuration of most servers, but I think it's important to understand the issue and know how to deal with it. Clicking this button should redirect me to another page, but when I do so, I get this warning. Cannot modify header information, headers already sent. And then it says it's on redirect.php on line 4. So let's go and look at the code in redirect.php. This is the file. You can find it in the chapter 8, 08_06 folder of the exercise files. And we're looking at line 4, and this uses the built-in PHP function header, which can be used amongst other things to send an HTTP header to redirect to another page. So that's what location is for, and it's meant to be sending us to other.php. Now looking at this code here, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with the code in the PHP block at the top of the page. So let's go back to the browser and see if the error message gives us any more information. It says in parentheses here, output started at, and then it gives you the absolute path to includes somefile.php. Then that's followed by a colon, and the number 9. That number is actually quite important. So let's go back to redirect.php. And if we look at line 3, we're including somefile.php on line 3, and it's in the includes folder. So if we open the includes folder and then open somefile.php, it's actually just a dummy file with a PHP code block containing only a comment. But look at line 9. That was the number in that error message. It's blank, but there's a closing PHP tag on line 3, and that's the problem. Even though lines 4 through to 9 are blank, they contain new line characters, which PHP regards as output. And once output has been sent to the browser, PHP can't send the header to redirect the page, because you've guessed it, the headers have already been sent. It's not just new line characters. Any white space outside the PHP tags in a server-side include sends output to the browser, preventing the header function from working. There are two possible solutions here. One of them is to delete all of the white space outside of the PHP tag. So if we delete that until we're right up next to the closing PHP tag, that will work. The other one, which is recommended in the PHP Online manual, is to omit the closing PHP tag if the file contains only PHP code, and this will prevent whitespace accidentally sending output to the browser. So let's remove that, and we can actually put in those extra lines. If we then save, go back to the browser, and we need to use the back button to get back to this button here, and then click redirect to the other page, and this time the redirect has worked. I have to admit that I cheated slightly with the setup for this video. Let's go back to the editing program and see what I've done. Most PHP servers are now configured to buffer up to 4 kilobytes of output, allowing you to use the header function even if a small amount of output has already been sent. And what I've done here, I'm using an Apache server, so I've created a .htaccess file, and this has set output buffering to 0. So I've killed off output buffering. The fact that you might be protected from the headers already sent error by output buffering on most servers makes it all the more important to understand what causes it and how to fix it. If you get an error message saying that the headers have already been sent, check the number after the colon in the error message. That's where the output was sent. And with server-side includes, the simplest way to avoid the problem is to omit the closing PHP tag, as I've done here in somefile.php. It doesn't matter if you've got white space after the PHP code. If you don't have the closing tag, you won't be outputting anything to the browser before calling the header function. Also check that you're not using echo or print to output anything to the browser before calling the header function. Headers already sent also affects a handful of other functions, but the remedy is exactly the same. With error reporting set to the highest level, you'll sometimes get notices about undefined values. In this video, we'll take a look at what they mean and what causes them. The notices in this file tell us there's an undefined index earth, and it says it's in undefined_01.php on line 18, and another notice refers to undefined offset 5 in the same file on line 19. So let's take a look at the code. And you can find all of the examples for this video in the chapter 8 08_07 folder of the exercise files. That first problem was on line 18, which is here, and it's referring to earth as being an undefined index. This is the key for an array element in the descriptions associative array, and if we look at the definition of the descriptions array, on line 3, earth is spelled with an uppercase E, whereas here it's spelled with a lowercase e. That's why it's undefined. PHP is case sensitive, so if we change that to an uppercase E, the problem should go away. The other problem referred to an undefined offset 5 on line 19. Well, here is 5. Offset is what the error message refers to as the array index. Characters is an indexed array, and it's defined here on line 7, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements. But indexed arrays are counted from 0, so there is no offset 5 or no index 5. So we need to change that to a number between 0 and 4. So if we change that to 4, save that, and then reload this page in the browser, both of those problems go away and the page is displayed correctly. So let's take a look at the next file. That's in undefined_02.php, and this time it's referring to an undefined constant Marvin, and it's assuming Marvin in quotes. Those quotes indicate that PHP expected Marvin to be a string. However, it has displayed the value, the paranoid android, that is the value of Marvin from the descriptions array. It says it's in undefined_02.php on line 17, so let's take a look at the code for that. And here it is, line 17. My editing program has given this special highlighting, indicating that there's a problem there. If we look at the problem, it says undefined constant Marvin. So what we need to do is to put this in quotes, and then the problem will go away. If you've got the display of errors turned off on your website, the value of an associative array element will be displayed correctly even if you leave out the quotes. But it's considered to be very bad practice to omit the quotes from the key or index of an associative array. Enclosing the key in quotes makes the error message go away, as we'll see when we reload the page into the browser. Problem solved. So the next one, that's in undefined_03.php, and this is referring to an undefined variable first name, and that's on line 5 of our file. So if we go to the files and undefined_03.php, the problem is that first name has been defined here on line 3 using camel case, whereas here on line 5 it's been used all in lowercase. With PHP being case sensitive, it's regarded as being a completely different variable. We need to change that to an uppercase N, save that, reload it in the browser, and the problem has gone away. So let's take a look at the last file here. It's undefined_04.php, and again we've got an undefined variable message, and it says it's on line 8. So if we go to the code, there is message being used on line 8, and in fact message is defined on line 5. So what's the problem here? Well, the problem is that message is being defined inside a conditional statement that uses submitted as its condition, and here on line 2 submitted is false. So we're going to skip this conditional statement, come straight down here to message, and of course it's undefined. With so few lines of code, this error is easy to track down, but in a real-world situation, you could spend ages trying to locate the cause of the problem. So to avoid this sort of error, it's a good idea always to initialize a variable outside any conditional statements, and then you can change it inside the conditional statement. So on the next line, if we initialize message as simply hi, and then we save that, reload the page in the browser, it will display hi. But if we go back and we change submitted to true, save it, and then reload the page in the browser, it will now display thank you, so we get no error messages at all. Some developers turn off PHP notices because they consider the errors to be trivial, but in a testing environment you should always take heed of notices, particularly about undefined indexes, offsets and variables. They alert you to errors that could prevent your scripts from working as expected.